Good evening.
Well,
This is the regular meeting of the Arts and Culture Commission. Today is Thursday, September 15th, 2022. Seeing a quorum, this meeting is officially called to order. Madam Recording Secretary, please take roll.
Commissioner McNair,
Here.
Commissioner Hernandez, Commissioner Russell,
Here.
Commissioner Wu, Commissioner Gomez, Gallegos,
here.
Commissioner Katz,
Here.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Here.
Thank you. We have quorum.
Thank you. Please rise with me or wherever you're at on Zoom for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge
Pledge
allegiance
allegiance to the flag
of the
of
United States of America
America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
and
and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. At this time, members of the public may address the Arts and Culture Commission regarding any non-agenda items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the committee. No action may be taken on any non-agenda items unless authorized by law. Please know that you have 3 minutes to speak. Does the public have any comments they wish to share with the commission?
Ronaldo Villeda, I received an email that you wanted to speak. I'm trying to.
Yes, I was trying to speak in regards to the NFT presentation. Is now the time to do so?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to uplift and support Commissioner Wizzo for the presentation on NFTs and Web3 technology. I believe that Web3 technology and NFTs can be a valuable asset to the city of Santa Ana and can be used as a force for community development and an economic driver in terms of giving access to under-resourced populations in terms of the technology. I believe it's something that can put Santa Ana at the forefront when it comes to adopting these technologies. We would be one of the first cities to do so in terms of here in Southern California. We are geographically located to benefit the most from being able to explore these technologies, make them available for our constituents, but more importantly, making them available so that people have access to it, can be educated in forms of financial literacy, in forms of how to use this technology, its utilities, and how it can be applied in terms of cultural preservation and bringing awareness to people that Santa Ana is not only willing to explore and adopt these technologies, but be at the forefront in teaching and expanding these technologies for all the people here in Santa Ana. Thank you.
Thank you. And I also have, where is he? Nacho. Go ahead.
Hello, buenas tardes, good afternoon. My name is Ignacio Gutierrez. All my friends call me Nacho, it's just easier to remember. But personally, I like to comment on the NFTs. I think it's very important to, being that the focus is arts and culture, it's important to arts and culture. One, because this is a new, I want to say a new way to display, promote, and reward artists. Me, myself, for the last year and a half, I go by the name as Not Cheesy. I go by that name as a designer and illustrator, and I have been part of the East End Block Party. I've been the lead designer in those projects, along with Tyson and the concept project back since, I want to say, 2013. So I've been in Santa Ana. I was born and raised in Santa Ana, and I worked in Santa Ana using my creative talent. And for the longest time, it was a struggle, both promoting the events, being an artist, being a designer, getting jobs. I was pretty much here and helped brand a lot of the businesses that are in downtown Santa Ana. So it was a struggle trying to get all these projects. But when NFTs came, I would use my art. I would display my artwork because as a Chicano, I had a lot of Aztec influence in my artwork. So when NFTs came around, there was this popular project called the Bored Ape Yacht Club. So then using those Bored Apes, I then dressed them as Aztecs, and that in itself, changed my life entirely. I went from just designing to then being a full-time illustrator till today. I work with NFTs. So if we are giving these tools to artists in the city, it will definitely change a lot of lives because there's just an untapped market. There's this big space that needs to be explored by anybody with any creative talent. And there's just a good way to, pretty much get anyone that's unknown get known, really, or get. So that really is my comment, and I hope that with a little bit of my life story, I can support pretty much Wizzo's presentation on NFTs for arts and culture.
Thank you. I don't
Thank you, by the way,
have-
for letting me speak. I'm sorry.
I don't have anyone else.
Thank you. We appreciate the public comments and looking forward to the presentation later this evening. This is the time for the commission to consider matters under consent calendar item number 1. Do I have a motion to consider item number 1?
Motion.
Was that which commissioner? Sorry, I missed that.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Fernandez, thank you. And do I have a second?
Commissioner Katz will second it.
Thank you. Is there any discussion about that item? All right, all of those in favor, let's have Madam Recording Secretary please get those in favor and then take the vote, I should say.
Commissioner McNair,
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
thank you. Commissioner Gallegos,
Yes.
Commissioner Katz,
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Yes.
Thank you. Pass.
Great, thank you. We have 2 items under our work study session. Please note that there will be no motion or action taken on any of these items. The first item under work study session is the presentation by Commissioner Fernandez on non-fungible tokens. We are very fortunate on this commission that we have expertise that we can learn about this for our arts community. So please, Commissioner Fernandez, please take over.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner McNair. Let me share my screen and just let me know when you guys can see that.
We see it.
Great. So the presentation is around NFTs and art and culture, right? So the presentation is geared to establish a starting point to understand the use of NFTs as an economic driver for art and how they can help communities to digitally preserve, present, and promote culture. So let's see if I can. So what is Web3? So Web3, give me 1 second. So Web3 is the new iteration of the internet. Give me 1 second. Let me try to, it's a little hard in one screen. So it's a new iteration of the internet, which incorporates concepts such as blockchain technologies, token-based economies, artificial intelligence, and virtual reality. So these are all the state of where the internet is at, right? So if we're going towards Web3, then there must be a Web 2 and a Web 1, right? So if we look at the starting point, what Web 1 was, it is companies created content and companies profited from that content. Web 2, artists create content, companies profit from content. Web 3, artists create content and artists profit from content. And they profit this way through the tools that are created within the Web 3 ecosphere. So I did want to skip a little bit on Web 3 because I don't want to make this a very elongated presentation on blockchain. We can get pretty deep into that. So I did want to cover a lot of topics. So what is an NFT? So an NFT is a unique digital token that can represent a ownership over an asset, and they're essentially small title deeds. They're tamper resistant because they're digital, they're programmable, they live on the blockchain, they're easily tradable, and they're easily accessible, and they're scarce by design, meaning when you can create an NFT, you can create it as a one of one. So it has the same scarcity as, you know, a dollar bill that has a very unique serial number. NFTs can be bought and sold online and authenticated instantaneously. The blockchain provides the tools to automatically check the ownership of each NFT as it relates to the person that holds it. And NFTs also have the ability to intrinsically compensate the original creator with the predefined royalty amount. And this is really what has separated almost any other technology to NFTs. Basically, if we think back at the Web 2 model, which we are in, Web 2 gave us things like HTML, CSS, and these protocols allowed us to build the internet right on top of it. Because we didn't anticipate to make payments on the internet, we have things like PayPal. What NFTs and the blockchain technology have brought is the internet plus a payments processing rail. So that's what an NFT allows for in relationship to art. So I'll move along. Let's see. So NFTs and art, right? So now we're going to go into detail about the mechanics of how NFTs specific. We're not really going to detail on how the mechanics of how NFTs work, but we can talk about how NFTs actually relate to art itself. So NFTs allow artists to sell their art directly to buyers without intermediaries. Because the NFTs are created on the blockchain and they're minted, you, as an artist, you instantaneously have ownership, and you can trade these without having, you know, an intermediary like, you know, Amazon or PayPal or any other type of e-commerce platform. And if artists can build digital communities around their art and provide physical and digital privilege to holders of NFTs. So this has been very common in the NFT space, is as an artist, you create a community with tools such as Discord, which are general purpose chat programs. And it is almost part of the culture to always be connected with these communities. So the communities that are built around NFTs, they revolve around creating a community and a culture where you're directly connected to the art that you're being part of. So artists can get compensated on future sales of their art, which really revolutionizes the economics of the market. So whenever an artist creates an NFT and puts it up for sale in any of the available marketplaces, within this NFT, just like how you would be posting, let's say, a Facebook post, and you were gonna put, you know, hashtags, it's as simple as adding a hashtag that you can add on a 15, 2%, 3% royalty. So when that art gets sold one more time, automatically the contract itself, without having any checks and balances of any humans, it sends you a piece of that transactional sale, which is really what was the biggest driver for artists, because they filled in that gap of having artists that, you know, create art for years and years and somebody buys their art for $100 and then for whatever reason, now their art is selling for hundred thousands of dollars and that artist receives nothing. And it's just artists, the art industry inflating prices for whatever reason. Now artists can get compensated on those future sales. So NFTs and culture. How can NFTs help us connect with culture? How can they help us protect our culture? And how can we incentivize people to participate in culture preservation and appreciation? So NFTs and Web3 tools are a new form of expression for artists, and these new ways evolve culture. Just because we're not painting on a wall or we're not drawing on a piece of paper, it doesn't mean it's not art, and it doesn't mean it's not part of culture. So we need to look at NFTs as a new revolution, as a new tool that adds to a community and its culture. NFTs help preserve culture by providing a method to digitally archive cultural assets. So we can take things such as a Declaration of Independence and create high resolution photographs and mint those and create unique NFTs that will far outlive their physical copies. And this is kind of a revolutionary concept within culture, but there has been a few museums, and I believe El Salvador has also started preserving some ancient relics as NFTs as well. I think one of the most important things that NFTs do for culture is they allow for a new economic sector to be invited in, that is involved in cryptocurrency, that wants to participate in new ways of preserving and connecting with culture. We literally, by using NFTs to preserve culture, we have literally created an avenue for these new participants to be able to participate in this. So a little bit about the economics of NFTs and why they were a big driver for artists is because they were able to generate about $44 billion worth of NFTs were traded in 2021 alone, with an almost 27,000% increase transactions over the past year. And this is astronomical from the first time NFTs were introduced. And just to kind of give some perspective, this is the collection that one of the public comments was mentioning. This is the Bored Apes. And this is just a collection of what you're seeing. It's just apes with different types of traits. And this is one of the first collections that actually kind of skyrocketed outside of one of the Genesis collection, which was the CryptoPunks. And this kind of created the NFT culture, which was to create a lot of variations of a character and creating a brand around those variations and a culture around these characters. And this project was, I believe, it only cost about a few $100. And if you bought this project by the end of 2021, you probably would have had just a little bit over $1 million. And this is just kind of putting things into perspective. CryptoPunks was the Genesis project. Why this project was so revolutionary is because these pictures are actually inside of the blockchain, and that's a little bit more of a technical term, but it really pushed the boundaries of how we access, store, and authenticate data. And these currently are trading at around $351,000 for these small pixelated images. This is a video that is not playable, but it's a video of a bull. And this is by an artist called Beeple, which some of you guys might know. He came out in the news and it was very famous. He sold a collage of his. I think he was one of the first over $1 million NFT artists. And this edition is trading for about $312,000 at today's Ethereum price. So that kind of just puts the perspective on what NFTs are and why artists are so excited If you can think about the royalties, 5% royalties every time one of your NFTs is trading at, $300,000, it's really good for an artist. And not everybody, promotes and is able to pull in those rates. But I think it's about the tools and what we can do with NFTs because of their intrinsic digital properties. So what can we actually do with NFTs, and how can we actually use them in a community? So the first example revolves around collectibles and community. And this was done through the group that put together NFT Oakland, which is a gathering of NFT enthusiasts. And at least for this event, it was a grassroots event, and the goal was for the education of people and giving them a tangible asset and giving them a sense of how crypto could be directly used with their community. So the NFT was a claimable picture, which is, you see here on the right, it just says NFT Oakland. The users would be able to go to a link, scan a QR code, they would claim the NFT, then they could present that NFT at different vendors and throughout the conference to be able to receive different perks. Now, once that NFT is in the user's wallet, you're able to do a lot of different things when it comes from authentication or future connection with that audience, considering you have a small real estate inside of something that they possess. So it's almost like a bi-directional communication. So there is another opportunity that NFTs are being used, which is for charity and donation, because NFTs are microeconomies, meaning NFTs can be one of one or one of many. With many additions, you can literally create a small economy with the sale of these NFTs, and then take those proceeds and apply them to many different things. In this example, we see that the charity case was for a project called Charity Kiss, and it was for people with rare diseases, and it was leading multimedia artists. They reimagined Gustav Klimt's Kiss, and Gustav Klimt it was an oil painting that was added, that was covered with gold leaf and silver platinum by the artist and symbolist painter Gustav Klimt. And what these artists did is they created NFTs that are being sold in an auction. This actually is an ongoing project. And I'll play this animation just so you guys kind of get the idea. So they took the image on the left and transformed it into these 3D renditions that are being auctioned, and the split or the economics of this fundraiser, there is a primary sale, which means when the art is first put up for sale, it seems like they devoted about 70% to the charity, 10% for the artist, and then marketing and management, things like that. And for their secondary sales, which is the royalty that is intrinsic in these NFTs. So once they gain popularity, you can see that the charity would remain with the 40% stake. So this is really new, and why this has been used by a lot of charities is because there's an intrinsic security around blockchain that is public, right? So any nonprofit or any entity that wants to know, and make sure that things are going where they're supposed to be going, it's almost an intrinsic property of a blockchain and NFTs that is visible to anybody that wants to look. So it works well for charity and donation causes. So let me see if I can get another use for NFTs, and a little bit more touching base on Web3, AR, and virtual reality. We can see on this example is an example of a Chinese AI pioneer. They released an AR navigation feature that brings to life a series of arresting scenes for tourists as they navigate around the world famous Hangzhou West Lake. And as you can see in these images. They're a little bit pixelated, but there's sort of a path that is guiding you to walk through. And the image on the left, you can see that there's this floating, almost claimable item. And what these things are, what you can do with these sort of experiences is not only can you create an interactive experience. So let's say, for example, we could take, you know, Santa Ana like cultural spaces or just places of heritage, and overlay those with QR codes that people can come in, and it will bring them up to an AR interactive experience that once they complete that experience, they would be able to claim or be able to purchase or be granted an NFT that would allow them to say, hey, I was there. And from the culture perspective, it would allow the community to understand how many people are interacting with the culture itself. So those are just a few examples of what I call the non-fungible future, where, you know, the possibilities of digital assets is pretty wide. You know, I see a future where our identities, qualifications, our real world property and digital collectives all exist in the blockchain. And right before I was putting together this presentation, I caught wind that the DMV is working on a digital ID. So the concept of a blockchain NFT ID is right around the corner. So I see that digital art Web3 tools will allow Santa Ana culture to connect, attract, and interact with the new global and digital community. Because this community is already out there, for the arts and culture to, you know, consider and kind of be cognizant that NFTs are and were and are the economic driving engine for artists, and not just visual artists, but there's a big push for audio. There is a big push for just different types of expression that are using NFTs. And I think in future considerations and in future discussions about how our commission can shift towards really painting the picture that art drives economy in Santa Ana, I think that including NFTs, Web3, and digital art would be the right path to sort of align ourselves with. I did want to, for the record, just include a few resources for artists and for any participants looking to kind of go and just get a little bit more information. And that concludes my presentation. I know I stumbled a little bit, but hopefully you guys got the gist of my surface level presentation. I know we can talk deep about blockchain, but I didn't want us to get lost.
Thank you, Commissioner
Thank you.
Fernandez. That was a great introduction, especially to those who are new to this. Are we allowed to ask questions? Yes, so does any of the commission, any commissioners have questions for Commissioner Fernandez about NFTs? Go ahead, Commissioner Katz.
Thank you so much for that presentation. I've worked a little bit with NFTs, but I have to confess, I'm still, I'm gonna say skeptical, but that's really a function of my not having the vision to understand. And I think your presentation gave me a better understanding of the value that this has for the artist, which is important to me. And I value that. It does feel like it's a bit of a cash grab that was going on. And I mean, how things have escalated, it's all based upon scarcity, and that tends to drive up value. I'm not too sure the value of the art as much as it's scarce and new, but I hope it does continue and we continue to explore it. Tell me a little bit more about how it seems to take the art world where, I mean, say for example, you're in New York City and you open up the Museum of Modern Art, and that art, the unique Warhols exist there in Manhattan, and therefore the art is linked to New York City and lifts the stature of of New York. this like feels like it exists inside the computer or on the web. And so tell me, how do we link it more to Santa Ana culture?
Right. You know, two points. You know, I completely agree with you that if this was a finance class, you know, we would be looking at NFTs definitely differently. I do agree with you, though my presentation was geared more for the value of the tool itself, not so much the value that we place on the art and how that drives forward. I think to answer your question of how we look at a physical experience and then how we think about why you would need a digital experience, I think it all comes from accessibility. I think if you can go to the Statue of Liberty, you will go to the Statue of Liberty. But I think what we have seen with things like Pokemon Go, which was huge. I mean, AR is the next frontier. I think that there is a lot of new things that are coming. But I think when we think about enhancing experiences and to preserve experiences in a form that may live on forever, blockchain allows us to do that, right? So let's say that you wanted to go to the Statue of Liberty and to look at it and experience it. And you're like, wow, that's great. But now think about yourself and what you leave behind, right? We're leaving behind our digital footprint of what makes us who we are. And what NFTs will allow us to do is, just like how people collect baseball cards and just how people collect shoes and stamps and all these things, people collect movie stubs, you know, all these things, we collect them. We hoard these things that make us who we are, because they make us who we are. And NFTs and how we use them, not for their monetary gain, so like to sell and trade them, but as a collectible item. I would go to the Statue of Liberty, experience that, and if there's a claimable NFT that I could take with me that will give me some value of this experience, now it's almost like a receipt, otherwise that I wouldn't have before. And I could also take value from that and say, wow, there's certain things that I didn't know about the Statue of Liberty, right? And now in the future, let's just say the city of New York says, hey, for all of our Genesis NFT owners of, you know, when we release the Statue of Liberty NFT, because obviously maybe they made it by scarce by design and maybe only 20,000 were created for whatever reason, right? Just game economics and design of scarcity all goes into play. The city of New York would be able to say, hey, all the people that participated in this now get a free concert at, you know, somewhere. And you just have to have that NFT from that day. And now you're tying your past experience to a future experience, and they're both physical and digital. So NFTs, basically, they function as a way to remind us of certain things, of a way for us to own certain scarce experiences. And when we think about AR, it allows that AR experience from just going from pointing at something and reading something to actually being able to take something from that experience and own something that can be validated, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not just me taking a picture and saying, hey, this is the Statue of the Liberty. No, I actually went on the event where the New York had their launch of their first NFT, and I claimed it. I was there. And now this NFT has value, just like going to see Jordan for the first time, or, you know, being the first person to be at Bieber concerts, or being the first person to buy a Beanie Baby or something. You know, it's just, there's something about that and the collectible part that is driving NFTs, and is why I believe that artists have the special positioning in that mechanism, where it's not just art as like art, but also I look at coding is an art form, because you're painting and you're creating spaces. So my goal is also to expand the word art to include coders, developers, builders, designers, because those are the people that are going to create the culture that is going to exist far when we're gone.
So, Khan, that answer, you just opened my mind to other never even thought about. But again, how do we link it to Santa Ana?
Yes.
I think you in your presentation you would, or maybe it was one of the public comments said how there really isn't a geographical area where, and we could become the NFT place. And I don't know, does that mean we become the place where we support artists and introduce them to the NFT and the blockchain technology, and we become the place where people come to really learn how to embellish or to monetize or make use of this technology? Or is there a way for, again, is there a way for us to display? And I know there have been museums that have NFT exhibitions where they sort of take the NFT and they either display it on screen or they create a two-dimensional printing of it. But I mean,
How do we make it work?
I'm just looking for us to get prominence as a city in connection with NFT.
Yeah, so to answer that, and I'm actually glad you asked that question. A simple answer to that question, definitely a support. I mean, I just look at it like this. Imagine if, the commission gets tasked with a new wall painting, or there is some sort of grant for a new wall painting, and the commission discuss opportunities and types of artists and types of art that we can put in that wall. Now imagine if we put a big ape on that wall that is a big NFT project, the biggest project in the world. And then all of a sudden, the news picks it up and random people pick it up. Now we have people coming to Santa Ana to see a big ape. People come to Santa Ana to see a big ape, they might stop, buy a drink. So now we've taken art and turned it into an economic driver. So that is the easiest way, is by showcasing that Santa Ana, when it comes to art, considers NFT art as well. I think a second low-hanging fruit is anytime the commission may be considering art, especially for, I know, we just had the COVID-19, I'm sorry, the words are leaving my mouth. We were talking about the monument. That's the word I was looking for. We commissioned a monument. We're talking about a monument. Imagine if we were thinking about NFTs at that time, we would say, hey, why don't we create an NFT for this as well? And it's just a simple added factor to something we might already be doing. And we tie that NFT to a future value, to a future expression. Maybe that NFT can become something that we give to the families of people that were in Santa Ana. It's just an added value to everything that we do, because it helps us preserve culture. And to your question back again, is how does Santa Ana actually use this? I think is by being at the forefront and considering NFTs at every step of the way when we're talking about art, and how we look at using art to drive the economy in Santa Ana. Mm-hmm. But I think directly, we throw up pictures, we say, hey, Santa Ana, NFT artists, or things like that. We're vocal with the word NFT, but I think on the backside, as a commission, like I said, it would be to be considerate of this art form that is shaping culture, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps we could convene a working group, a committee that could explore what that actually translates and looks like in Santa Ana. We could set up a team to look at that and bring that back with some recommendations. Because this was a general overview presentation. My question was along the lines, what does this actually look like translated to Santa Ana? And that wasn't part of, we don't know yet. So perhaps we could convene a work study group. What do you think, Tram?
Well, if Wizzo would like to be part of it,
Of course.
Yeah.
If he could lead that, and we could get some people to.
Of course. And to touch on one last point that Commissioner Katz also said was, consideration of our geographical positioning. I think the simple fact is that if we don't do it, somebody else will, and somebody else already has, and they're doing it very good. Miami, LA, San Francisco, Oakland has just, the city has just commissioned their first NFT like festival. They did in partnership with the city. So I think from an economy perspective, going back, we are geographically positioned to really kind of take advantage and sort of be a hub. Since we're already an artistic hub, it only makes sense for us to take our position within this digital space. And I would love to lead that commission if the rest of the commission would like me to.
I think that would be great. So if you're willing to chair, to lead that commission, are there any other commissioners who want to do that with you? Or you could create an ad hoc committee with some community members, so we could put, I'm not clear on how we could solicit participation from that, as or perhaps, Commissioner Fernandez could come back with some practical applications. As we're working on this economic impact study for the arts, we want to make sure we capture the arts in the city of Santa Ana as an economic engine. If this could help move that initiative forward, that'd be great. But before we move on, are there any other questions from Commissioner Russell or Commissioner Gallegos?
Yes, I just wanted to say I would be really interested to know how cities are using it, because initially during the presentation, I was sort of under the impression that the focus was to remove barriers between the artists and revenue. And sort of it seems like the city then becomes that third party intermediary, which the NFTs are trying to avoid. So I just am curious to see a few more examples of how cities facilitate.
Could I reply to that, if I may? Yeah. So maybe I might have worded it a little bit wrongly, but the city's positioning wouldn't be as an intermediary for NFTs. NFTs intrinsically only deal with the purchasing party. I think from the positioning of where the city may be is just a support. I think a support role is huge right now. And in a consideration role. So meaning when we have opportunities for artists, include those opportunities as well, and say, hey, well, just to throw out numbers, let's say we have $100 for a piece of art, and say, hey, well, let's put $50 for the real thing, and then $50 for the NFT side, and let's bring that together as one thing. So now two artists can move forward together, or one artist can create that art, and from that they can, let's say that we commission to do a wall painting, right? And we give them $100, but we also say, hey, we're also going to give you $25 to actually create the NFT, because creating NFTs and the art is a time metric, right? So we would just pay them for their time, and then they would create this NFT, they would paint the mural that they were commissioned for, but the NFT they would sell on their own, and they would be able to generate money from that because they worked with us. So now they look like, wow, I'm a commissioned artist through the city of Santa Ana, and I did this mural. The city commissioned me to do the mural. They gave me $125. I took a picture of that mural, I minted it, and I sold that picture for $5. So now I'm generating residuals from that. And that's what NFTs allows us to do, is just supporting artists in doing those things in tandem of what we're already doing. So not necessarily get in front of them and become like gatekeepers, but sort of like support workshops like the one that is coming this Friday. We're supporting that, which I was really surprised and really glad that NFTs are starting to pop up next to the word economy and art. So it's that, hopefully that brings a little more clarity on hopefully the positioning of NFTs.
And I too, individually for artists in our community, this is good information for them to be doing their own practice.
Yes.
Commissioner Gallegos, it appears you have some comments or questions.
You're muted.
Okay. Mine has to do more with the question of like digital real estate, right? Somebody, can you guys hear me?
Yes, it's a little muffled, but I can make it out
Okay. What about now?
much better.
Okay. So my question was more along the lines of digital real estate, right? So if I asked an artist to create a mural for me, I would need a space to display it. The only way that I can see the city can get involved in that is if they allowed us to use the public spaces that the city already owns to allow those murals to be placed on there. Because, for example, an artist technically they couldn't come to my house and put the mural on my house because it's my digital real estate. You know, I own that geographical area essentially. So it creates two forms of real estate. You know, they talk about you own the land, you own the air above you, you own the house, and you also now own this digital space in that geographical location. So the way I could essentially see NFTs could be used is, you know, if they hosted, I live close to Memorial Park, right? If I contracted or if the city contracted an artist to say, hey, I want you to create essentially an event surrounding NFTs along let's say along the paths of the sidewalk. I want you to create like, I don't know, a ton of flowers, just flowers that litter like the parks. But I would only be able to access this through my phone because it's a virtual reality experience, right? So now when I look through my phone, or if I put on those AR glasses, the augmented reality glasses, you know, now I'm walking through the same sidewalk that Santa Ana has, but now it has this artist's like flowers everywhere and whatnot, you know, and talking about an event that LA is doing. Maybe that same artist can create, let's say 100 balloons that have, this is the first NFT event that Santa Ana has ever thrown. And I can go as a resident from whether from Santa Ana or anywhere else, and I can go and purchase one of these balloons. I can take it with me and say, this now belongs to me, right? Now, from my understanding with NFTs though, I could essentially copy the image. I won't own it, but I can copy it. So I think that also I think that's really special in the sense that other residents who do not own the rights to that particular NFT or that piece of artwork, they can still view it. They just don't necessarily own it, you know? And now if I have that balloon and I want to sell it to somebody else, like you said, it's already predetermined in like the nature of that artwork. Every time I sell it, the person who created it could say, no matter what, every time this balloon is sold, 5% goes to me, 10% goes to charity, and then the rest you guys do whatever you want with it. But they absolutely have to be met. Those requirements have to be met. So I could see how NFTs could definitely serve in that kind of way. You know, you bring what would be quiet areas in the city and kind of explode them with art as many times as you want. I could see that happening. I will say though, intrinsically, this art, just like any other art, whether it's tangible or not tangible, it only intrinsically has economic value so long as there's a buyer, you know, because while I do know that, millionaires have been made over NFTs, I know that there's a lot more artists who have received nothing for their art. But I think that shouldn't necessarily stop us from, we would only be expanding kind of the art world. It's not contracting it, we're just expanding it, because then we could use the argument and say, hey, most artists should stop making art because most artists aren't getting rich off of it. Like I don't think that that's the message that we want to put out there. So I definitely see an avenue for this to grow. I would definitely say that if we're going to spend any money on it, or recommend that the city spends any money on it, just like anything else, that we give kind of these what can I say, these modest amounts so that we have enough for both tangible and intangible artwork.
Yes, I think you touched on a very advanced point that is extremely possible, which is a digital real estate and the opportunity to do art. I mean, you mentioned things that, you know, I think that is going to be almost a norm, right? Where you have a space and you can commission an artist to come in and do installations that are purely digital. And just like anything else, right? You know, you create a painting on the wall, especially for muralists. You create a mural, and that mural is temporary, unless it's like a permanent situation where you're always servicing it and it becomes like an installation, right? But when you're talking about just expressive muralism, you almost the decay is part of it, right? So if you think about the cost and all these things, I can see a situation where we would do a digital art, you know, a digital experience only, where it can be experienced by anybody in the world. And it's not so much about what we get back, what happens, but it's about the fact that, like you said, we're doing these things, we're exploring new ways of cultural expression, we're exploring new ways of art, and having a place where you can create art and people can come and it's only exists in a digital space. That way you don't have, you know, walls to be repainted. You don't have to get the city to go and repaint that wall white again. So there's a lot of positives to, you know, exploring AR spaces and digital art. The same way as there's negatives, right? Just as many people that are like, well, I like driving by and looking at that wall. Well, sometimes that might not be the most practical thing to do that. You know, let's say we did something like that for $5,000. We could take $5,000 and give 20 artists the opportunity to do, you know, art in a space. And instead of paying one artist for one wall that'll be alive for 3 months, we paid 20 artists that same amount of money, and this art is now forever. And it's now something that, you know, art visitors can come and say, oh, wow, you know, Santa Ana is involved in NFTs. They did a gallery. So yeah, there's so many ways that we can use it, so many different novel ways, and so many very complex ways that we can get into. But yeah, no, totally agree. And thank you for your comments.
Thank you so much. It seems like if we want to bring this to Santa Ana in some way, we actually need some recommendations. So if you're willing to provide us with that, Commissioner Fernandez, and if any other commissioners want to join, if you're uncommitted now, we could let Tram know, or we could convene community members to be part of it. There were some champions in our audience who spoke in favor of NFTs and understand the culture and what that means for us. So perhaps community members are involved in this research that we can bring back for pragmatic application to Santa Ana. Okay. Is there any further discussion on this item? This informational item? Okay, hearing none. The second item for tonight is the work study about the discussion of the Arts and Culture Master Plan goals. That was to be led by Commissioner Vu, who unfortunately is ill tonight and not able to attend. So I am tabling that item until the next meeting, when Commissioner Vu can be here to lead that discussion. So, and for those of us, just a friendly reminder that we have an Arts and Culture Master Plan, a 10-year plan. I think we're in year about 6 or 7. And we are unpacking that and what we can do with that. And we're in an effort to gather information for the economic impact of the arts on the city, so we can get sustainable funding to implement that plan, because we only were able to get 5 years of funding, and we're looking to secure funding for the plan to continue to be implemented, and an active live document that is vibrant part of our community. So that said, does the staff have any comments they wish to share with the commission?
Yes, thank you, Chair McNair. I'm just gonna try to go through it quickly. Just a quick update. We're still working on artist grants agreements. They're still being processed. It does take a while. We've told our artists sometimes it takes 6 months. It just takes a long nowadays with insurance and all of that. The South Main Public Art Panel met last month. Arts and Culture, we led this panel and this selection and all of that. But Public Works is leading this project. So naturally, they will be selecting, they will confirm and announce the selected designs when they're ready. So I think they're still figuring out budget-wise and how many they can place. So they picked, the panel picked, you know, like a list of ranked in order the different poems and art designs that bus shelter designs and crosswalk designs that they felt were appropriate. And so they'll hopefully we'll be announcing that soon. I'm not sure when. Next month, the city is organizing the Mid-Autumn Festival on October 1st at Rosita Park. For those of you who are unfamiliar with that, the Mid-Autumn Festival is, or known as the Moon Festival. And some of you are familiar with the Moon Cake Festival. That's where they have that moon cake with the egg in the middle. Is a holiday celebrating the end of the autumn harvest. A lot of Asian countries celebrate that with lanterns and all that. So it's a celebration of a harvest, you know, good harvest and abundance of food and all of that. So that'll be at Rosita Park, and you're all welcome to join. And finally, the Art and Economic Prosperity 6 survey. As I already sent out to you, but we got 220, we were able to collect 225 surveys. That's 28% of what we need to collect. But that's okay. We still have, you know, the rest of the year, or not this year, but on to next year too. We were able to collect 137 surveys from BIPOC orgs and 88 from non-BIPOC orgs. That's it.
Thank you so much, Trem. We appreciate all that you do to support the commission in this work. This is the time now that
I think Commissioner Gallegos has.
Oh, sorry, my apologies. I missed that. Thank you.
Trem, do we know yet how much the city is going to allocate to the Arts and Culture Commission? Because I know that we weren't sure last time.
Yeah, I think according to the budget, I don't have the exact number, but I think the bulk of it was allocated to mural programs and mural restoration programs. I think that's where the money was designated. So nothing in the realm of sponsorships like last time or artist grant. I think we're going to get another, don't quote me quite yet, but I believe we're going to get another chunk for artist grants from the Revive program, you know, from ARPA funding, which is separate from the city's general funds. So from general funds, it's going to be mostly designated towards mural programs and mural restoration.
Sorry, Trem, one more thing. So, but I do know, I think like the Chicano Heritage Festival that just had, I think it was like 50 grand or something, but that was the city, obviously they funded that. So it looks like instead of kind of, you know, giving us a certain amount to kind of allocate or recommend, they're almost funding even more, but to these specific events. Is that correct?
It seems like that. I'm not sure. I don't, yeah. It was not communicated to me specifically, but yeah, that's what it seems like. There's like the Chicano Heritage Festival, Mid-Autumn Festival, and things like that. You know, I think there's an Indigenous festival, I believe, too. So it's, yeah, it's possible what you're saying. Commissioner Fernandez?
Trem, was that in collaboration with Parks and Rec, or that was just strictly from the Arts and Culture Commission fund?
The Mid-Autumn, or which one are you talking about?
The Chicano Heritage.
Oh,
Festival.
that one, I think it's from council. And
council.
with, yeah,
Gotcha.
council
Sorry.
organize, yeah. What's that? I'm sorry. Allocated that funding. They did work with Parks and Rec to organize it. So Arts and Culture didn't have anything to do with that one. Or the other festivals, just to clarify.
Any other questions for staff? Okay, this is the portion of the meeting where commissioners have an opportunity to speak. Please note that no member may speak more than once until all have had an opportunity to speak. And please limit your comments to 3 minutes. So is there anybody who would like to make comments?
I'll share. Just to kind of continue to promote events that are happening that are possibly funded by the arts grants or by arts funding. This weekend is the Fiestas Patrias festival, and that's not an arts festival itself, but I know I will be there to engage with anyone who attends, participants and families to support the survey. And then the Frida Cinema is really activating our parks. And so this might be a collaboration with Parks and Rec, but they're doing a great cinema series in the evenings on Thursdays. And for October, it's going to be very spooky themed. And I just have been to a few of them. And I want to comment that not only is it a great use of the park, but they really bring in some interesting demographics. There are senior citizens from some of the nearby residential areas that come. There's families and kids, and it's just been a wonderful use of the park, a way to enjoy it in a different way. So those 2 events are coming up. I'm excited about the Autumn Festival. And lastly, I just hope everyone does get a chance to review the master plan for arts and culture so that we can really ground our comments and our priorities in those goals. And I'm already hearing a couple of them being mentioned in some of our comments, but I'd love for it to be connected to that work.
Thank you.
Oh, just to ask, right, thanks for bringing that up, Commissioner
Russell.
Russell. Did everybody get the master? Did I send everybody that with the goals, especially the newer commissioners?
I think
No?
that would be a great idea if you would send that out to us again.
I'll
please.
just send it out again. Okay.
Thank you. Any other comments by commission members?
I missed the dates of the New Moon Festival. When is it? Or the new?
October 1st. It's a Saturday.
One thing about the city of Santa Ana is there's always a lot of things happening in the arts and culture. There's so many things to do. Commissioner Katz, did I see that you?
Yeah.
Comment? Yes.
Our neighborhood had a Moon Festival or Mid-Autumn Festival this past weekend, and it was our neighborhood has a small percentage of Vietnamese, but it was a really neat to watch Vietnamese and non-Vietnamese get together and learn more about the culture of the Vietnamese. Although Moon Festival is not exclusively Vietnamese, but this one has that Vietnamese angle, and it was a beautiful shared cultural experience. And I encourage people. I think Bowers is also having one coming soon, so I encourage people to go to that. I'd like to explore something, and I'll speak very briefly about it, but I'd like to see if there's an opportunity for the Arts and Culture Committee. And I feel somewhat anachronistic in light of Commissioner Fernandez's kind of futuristic presentation that he, with an eye towards things that are evolving. I have an interest about things that are more historical, more tangible, more palpable. I have a meeting in the next 20 minutes with a designer that I've encouraged a property owner to hire to reimagine the shopping center. And it's a tired shopping center on 17th Street that was built in 1990. So if you can imagine the 1990 architecture and what a statement that made to the world. The idea is for us to redesign it, one, to make it more consistent with the neighborhood, but to make it more remarkable, meaning something that you would look at and remark about. And it troubles me that we certainly have wonderful murals coming up here in Santa Ana, but there's a lost art that used to be here in the 50s, and we've stopped paying attention to it, and that's the art of architecture. And it's become very corporate, very dated, very haphazard, very in, and most significantly, it's become very indifferent to aesthetic. And to me, architecture, like art, because it is a form of art, has a way of inspiring people, particularly our kids, but it also has a way of doing just the opposite. Certainly, you can think of the broken window theory and what that does to the psyche of a city and its people. Architecture is an expression of our values. It's our history, it's our culture, it's our customs, and we've lost sight of it. And I wish we as a commission could really, I know we try to put our collective strength behind the notion that city council should give more money to the arts. Absolutely. I wish we can also give our collective psyche to the idea that council, planning department, and we as city as a whole can encourage, perhaps even demand, that what we build now, or what our developers build, and we're happy that they're building here, but what they should build should be more inspiring. And if the building itself is not inspiring, then at least that there should be a piece of art that's in the forefront of this art piece, in front of the building, or become part of the building. But I feel we're losing our soul one parcel at a time. And I take a look at the things that are coming up, and I feel, look, we place a lot of pressure on developers. Our WHO payment has gone up to $15. There's a requirement that you use professional skilled workers, and I'm not at all commenting about that. Those are important items. But I want to add one more, and that is that they use greater imagination, that buildings not be built by computers and accountants, but by people that are capable of using an imaginative brushstroke. And so I'd like to see that. I see buildings being completed now, and I'm just thinking, oh, what a lost opportunity. And these are really the largest canvases that we have in our city. It's our buildings. So I really should revisit the goals of our Art and Culture Committee, but I'd like to see if somehow we could impress this value upon those who are making decisions about what goes up. And I'll tell you that's why I chose a designer, not an architect, to work on this. He happens to design a lot for amusement parks. So I'm hoping he does use something very whimsical on the structure we're not going to tear it down. We're just going to use the building that's there as a canvas to augment it and make it more interesting. So I'd like to see that become a value as well, that we can somehow impart upon our council, in our planning commission, and our historic commission. Yeah, that's all I have. It's a gripe.
Thank you. I appreciate you reminding us about architecture as art. That is an important part and has been an attractionary part of Santa Ana historically. So thank you for your comments. Commissioner Gallegos.
So I went to a lot of the events, like the concerts in the park, the movies in the park, all that. And it was really nice to see even the concerts in the park in terms of like who was playing, what kind of music they were playing. I thought it was really neat because you can go to one event and it was one particular demographic. You'd go to another event and it was completely different demographic. And I loved seeing that, because to me, it just, a lot of the times, if we're not part of that demographic, we forget about that demographic. And so I really liked seeing that. One of the things though that was because I talked to a bunch of people at these events, and one of the most, I think the most common comment that was made to me was, when I would ask them, how did you find out about this? And most of them, if it wasn't someone who found out through like Instagram and whatnot, most of them said, oh, I just happened to see, I went to this center and they happened to have a flyer there. And it was just, it felt like, man, the word is not getting out to, let's face it, a demographic who isn't buried in like their smartphones. like that demographic is going to have access to all the information in the world. But anyone who is not living that life, they're going to have such a difficult time to access where is it happening, when is it happening. And really, that majority of the people, they're going to have kids. They're going to have, they might be older, you know, to kind of think, how can we also reach out to, you know, the rest of Santa Ana in a way that's going to be, you know, I'm not searching for this information. You know what I mean? So I think what I had mentioned last time was maybe we can figure out how we can post it at places that they're shopping, places that they're doing like a laundromat, or, you know, those types of things where people, they're going to, hi, Spider-Man, where they're going to consistently, you know, because I think that a lot of people, they're so excited to see these events. They want to be a part of these events. But again, you don't know what you don't know. And so I think that that's getting lost in translation for us. And then just one final comment I wanted to mention on Commissioner Katz's, the whole architecture. I think that's an amazing idea. I've gone to a lot of places in Mexico. They call them pueblos mágicos, or, you know, magical towns. Because what they do in those cities is there are ordinances in those towns that we don't care if you're putting a Starbucks, if you're putting a Walmart, whatever it is, it has to match the architectural, the historical, whatever's already there, and they look beautiful, and they're built in to the culture of the city. They're not just some warehouse that's kind of placed in there. So I think that if we can make a recommendation to the city as the commission, I think that would be a really nice way to do it.
Thank you. Any additional comments?
I just like to support what Commissioner Gallegos and Commissioner Katz have stated. I think I just love that you brought that up. And I definitely think there's a ton of blockchain applications around architecture. So I will be thinking about that, as I know you will be thinking about the physical side of it. So I just love that you brought that up, which it just further, and it reiterates what I think we're talking about, which is let's widen our view of what art is as a commission. I think that's the most important thing we're doing today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate all the comments. Just want to add a couple of things to let everybody know that the City of Santa Ana and the Santa Ana Unified School District are combining their efforts to create a community, college, career, and resource fair at the Santa Ana Zoo on September 29th from 6 to 8 p.m. We have asked the artists to come out. I know our local artist, Jonathan Martinez, who was awarded one of our grants to create a mural at the zoo, is going to be there demonstrating. What we're trying to do is have a representation of the arts and culture and jobs that people can have, in the careers that people can have, and the studies that they can do in the arts. So I encourage commissioners to come and support, and all of our community. The resource fair will include city resources for all kinds of support, in addition to the college and career for the families, and it's a free event. The zoo is open for everyone. Additionally, we will be announcing through SAUSD, speaking of murals, one of our schools has an upcoming RFP for murals to be installed. There will be 4 separate mural projects that artists can submit for. So we're excited about that process. It'll be rolling out the early October. And I just want to continue to encourage all of those who've been awarded sponsorships and grants by the commission. Please, please help us, join us, do your part at your events to gather these surveys that we need. We're collecting surveys at the zoo event. I know that we're collecting for Fiestas Patrias and other ones. All of these many opportunities. Please don't forget, I just carry my handy clipboard with a QR code and ask a few people every time I'm somewhere to please just take a minute of your time to give us this data, because this is really important as we look at the bigger picture and not reliant on unknown. Are we going to get sponsorships? Are we going to get grant opportunities? What can we rely on to be sustainable over time? And we're hoping to be able to drive that conversation with the city council. So thank you to everybody who participated tonight. Oh, looks like Commissioner Katz would like to make a comment too.
If everybody's done with their comments, I want to bring emphasis to what Commissioner Gallego said in terms of getting the word out, because it is haphazard. And I'd like to suggest to Tram, if perhaps we can communicate to Comlink, where you have neighborhood leaders. I'll tell you that in our neighborhood, and certainly as part of the leadership here in our neighborhood, I feel it's incumbent upon us not simply to communicate about what's going on in the neighborhood, but to communicate what's going on here in Santa Ana. And we feel the neighborhood has to support what's going on, not simply what's going on. If it's a block party here, that's nice, but there are things going on beyond the boundaries of our neighborhood. And if I take a look right now at our own website for the neighborhood, we've got an advertisement on here for the Bowers Open House, for Fiestas Patrias, for the National Dance Day, for the Mid-Autumn Festival, for the Donuts with Dispatch, the story of Selena at Bowers. So I think it's incumbent upon us to make an appearance, and I'd be happy to do it on behalf of the commission at Comlink, to really encourage neighborhoods to see, and neighborhood leadership to see their responsibility, not simply to be within boundaries of their neighborhood, but all of Santa Ana. There's life that goes beyond their neighborhoods, and we should encourage our neighbors to explore it. It would be the best form of communication.
I have one last comment, if I may. It's something that I've been kind of thinking about. I'm on the board for a nonprofit, arts nonprofit here in Santa Ana, and we created a pop-up banner with the QR code that I can program for almost anything. So if any of the commissioners here may find that useful, feel free to contact me, and I can put any QR code or it'll basically go anywhere I want it to. And I thought that could be helpful for collecting of surveys if we need that. It's a huge, like, I don't know, 8-foot, like, stand up with it's like a 4-foot QR code. It's huge.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. I don't know how we would fund that to be able to provide it when
No, I can provide it as a resource for everybody here. Yeah.
Beautiful. Because when I've gone into galleries and places and talked to folks there, those in charge, I've sent them a follow-up email and asked them if they would post the QR code somewhere. So if you can create something that's really big and visible, that would be really great, because we really have to. I thought it would be so easy to get 800 surveys, and this is taking a lot longer than I thought it would. So that's a lot more. So it would be great to get everybody on board. There's so many opportunities, as Commissioner Katz is saying. He just rattled off just a couple,
Yeah.
Every weekend, all the time, there's things going on. So yeah, we need to activate everyone to participate in this. It's going to take us all to unify around this issue.
Yeah, that's why I figured there's a lot of us in different community leaders throwing shows. So if anybody feels like, hey, we're throwing a big enough show, we would like to just have this big QR code, I can provide that. We already put it together, and I could just program the QR code to go wherever we want it to go. So I just wanted to provide that for the rest of the commission as a resource. I already have it done.
Great. Thank you. Let's get one at the zoo for September 29th.
Of course. Yeah. If you need to borrow it, that's perfect. That's why I kind of mentioned, I just didn't know, because I know sometimes the events may not be as big. You can kind of get to them through just foot traffic. But if we have a large event where just like a standing QR code, that I have that.
Great.
What's at the zoo on the 29th? I know Boo at the Zoo is in October.
It's the City of Santa Ana and the Santa Ana Unified School District College.
Oh, I got it. Oh, that's at the zoo. Got it.
I was going to mention, going along with what Wizzo was saying, I was thinking when I was looking at the projector for the movies in the park, I mean, they're over now, but I thought, I was like, oh my God, if they're already sticking stuff up there, why can't they just stick a big giant QR code? But more importantly, I always see that the council members a lot of the times, at least one of them is always there at these events, and they'll make like a public announcement like, hey, this is so-and-so from whatever. Along with, Wizzo's QR code, I mean, couldn't they make an announcement? Or if one of us is there, like, would they allow us to do that? Because it would take, a few seconds for us to make a big announcement and say, hey, everyone, look at this. If you like a free event, please scan this because this is the way you're going to get them.
Mm-hmm.
Could we do that, Tram, or is that going to be dependent on who's there?
Well, I think the thing that American for the Arts, they don't want it to be distributed that way. They want it to be at the event itself, and done right there. So that's why they've made it a point say, please don't email your attendance list, and so they don't even want accepting people online like that.
Oh, no.
No. That's what he's saying. You display the QR code at that event.
Oh,
Instead of going person to person to person, here, scan this, scan this, scan this.
yeah.
One
No.
big one that 400 people can scan at once.
That would be great if they're willing to do it,
You guys see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's kind of what I mean. So it's pretty huge. So I'm willing to let anybody borrow that, basically.
That's amazing.
And I can program that QR code to go anywhere.
That's great.
Potentially, Wizzo, I mean, just for the future, aside from this QR code that we're doing, just speaking about how people don't have access to what else is going on in the city, maybe we can put it in conjunction with that too, to
Absolutely.
make a schedule of what's happening. You know what I mean?
For sure. I could stand up a landing page with all that information in about 5 minutes. I'm a web dev too, as well. So
We love that. Okay, perhaps you could work with Trams so we
Yeah.
could put that in our socials and
I
on
definitely.
For sure.
will reach out to
the
you.
Santa Ana website and things like that.
yeah, Trev,
We're
please
searching
feel free to
all our
contact me.
talent.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. All right, well, if there are no further comments, this meeting is officially adjourned. Our next regular meeting is scheduled for Thursday, October 20th at 5:30 p.m. So we look forward to seeing everybody the next time, and thank you, commissioners, for all your hard work and our city team for the support to make this happen. Have a good night.